Well, it's back on the Thunderbird again. Good to see you guys. So, in the last video, I did that little patch on there, and that was kind of more of a patch panel and planning kind of thing. Patch panel and planning, PPP, there you go. So this time we have to actually do something instead of fooling around with these little jobs. We want to get something done. I have this this wheelhouse right here, and I explained that in the last video. So if you haven't watched the last video, go back and watch it, and it'll talk a little bit about that. So what I did, I started to clean this up to see how I could separate the two halves, the outer and the inner. When Ford made these two halves, when they joined them, they didn't spot weld them they didn't actually spot weld them. They did like a roll weld. So they're actually put together like a can almost. So that's a lot. And originally I said I was just going to cut some of this off. I was going to cut about this much away inside the car on the old one. And I'll still do that. But I think because I can't really salvage this lip anyway, I'm just going to cut right along the edge of it. And then I'll weld that in somewhere on here. I'll see how it plays out, but I'll give myself as much as I can. And that's what I'll be doing. I'll get the zip cut out and I'll zip that right around. There's a couple of obstructions here. This bracket rusted through, but it didn't rust through the fender well. Through the wheelhouse rather. So I'll probably just cut this folded lip right off because it's going to be in the way. I'll just rip her right along.
I know you told your friend you're not okay. And tell me what's wrong and why you never said you felt that way. And guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to watch your blue eyes fade to gray as you fade away.
Well, that came off pretty quick actually. And as you can see, it fits in the bead blaster, the blast cabinet rather. Just only fits. So I'm going to try to get what I can off of it. I couldn't get all of it in the bead blaster. I got this area here on this part and a little bit down in there, but I could only get a small portion because it was hidden behind. This I just cleaned up by hand with some carb cleaner. That was just undercoating. That's bare metal right there now. This is the area I took that bracket off. I'll need these holes to reinstall on the bracket that comes from the convertible. So this is where that bracket should be. I don't think that was changed from hardtop to convertible, but we'll know when we start taking the old one out. I got rid of that extra pinch weld that was folded over. And let's take a peek on the other side. I was able to get most of the inside with the bead blaster. Kind of a spotty job, but it was a fairly big piece for that. But yeah, and then I cleaned it up with some of the carb cleaner as well. Got all this out in here. This is the part that I really needed, this dog leg part. So I have a good reference points on this. Most of this will be replaced, but I have good reference points. I'm going to start on this end because I have some good reference points for this. And there's another piece of this corner right here. So yeah, so do this end, and then I can start working my way around this lip. I'm probably going to have to fit it in the car a few times because the car still has some of the original quarter panel in that area in place. So I'll be putting it up in there and kind of getting the arch. I also have the fender skirts, which are excellent pattern for the arch. But this is mostly intact. There's a little gap there and a little gap there, but it tells you, where you need to be. But before I start doing that, there's absolutely no value in keeping any of this inside here anymore. This outer wheelhouse. I'm going to take it out altogether, so that'll be done as well. But first, let's get this piece done right here. Well, I've got a piece made with a 90 in it, just a flat piece. I hammered and dollied a little bit of I'll show you what's going on here. Where that line is, there's a line right here. So this piece has to sit down in flat on that part right there. And there's that line is, that line joins up with the one I drew. So now I have to bring down the rest of it down to curve around the wheelhouse. So what I've been doing, I'm going to put in my shrinker stretcher here, and I've been just shrinking it. And I'll shrink it until it fits there nice. I'm pretty happy with that one. I mean, this has all been twisted and stuff. It's pretty darn close. It's a little tiny gap there, but remember, I'm going to be replacing a lot of this anyway, because I have to go right around the wheel arch, so I'm not too worried about that. This is the spot I wanted to keep it nice. So a little shrinking, a little stretching, fitting. I'll burn that in, and I'll cut this right off here, but I'll only burn in mostly down to here. I left this tail on to wrap around on the bottom because it's a little rough underneath. I can always put a little piece in if I have to. All right, so let me get that tacked in there, and well, we'll do the cut and butt on that actually. They're all welded up, looking pretty good. This needs to be flattened down. This is hidden, so I'm not going to take it right down tight, but I will grind the other side down better. And yeah, and this has to be brought down around a little bit to level out with this lip. And then I'm going to let's start doing this now. And I have the fender skirt, and I also have the quarter panel for a template. So that's why I left all that stuff in there. Now, I don't need the outer wheelhouse anymore that's in there, so I'll be pulling that out. And then I can just start fitting this up inside. Well, I jumped ahead a little bit and cut out the old outer wheelhouse. There's not a lot left of that one. Holy smokes, she's thin. And this bracket is different than it was for the hardtops. This is only a little tiny bracket, and it's in a different position. Anyway, I'll sort that out when the time comes. All right, let's take a look here. I installed the donor piece, we'll call it. Put a couple clecos in it. I cut it so I left the old flange behind this from the outer wheelhouse that I cut out. And the support bracket, this is the holes for the hardtop. But let me just reach up in here. The support for the convertible, it goes right about here. So I'm gonna have to redo that, fill these holes in, and then redo that. But yeah, it's fitting pretty good. Now I have to get a piece of metal and get it laid out to do the wheel arch for this outer wheelhouse. It's got a little bit of fitting here to do because clearly that's not right. So this has to go up in some more yet. Again, this whole thing is down the thickness of the metal, and I can see here it's not up tight, so I can get the end of my finger under it. So that's probably what's going on there. I may have to put some sheet metal screws in, maybe bend this a little bit. I'll have to get it fitting better than that, but I can still make the wheel arch. So let me get a piece, and I'll probably, what I'm going to do is use the fender skirt, or the skirt cover, wheel skirt, whatever you call them, as a pattern. It'll give me a pretty darned accurate one. But we'll see. Give me a minute and we'll see what we can do with it. I took the fender skirt, I clamped that metal on. This is 6 inches wide, and I just gave it a whatever I had a piece of that would go the whole distance. And I put the fender skirt up, and now you have to remember this isn't the actual hole size for the real fender skirt. It has to go on the metal, not the, because it has to be on that flange. So what I did, I just put it up. This is just eyeballing it to get it rough, because this is all, this doesn't have to be 100%. And then I just took my marker and I traced around. So that's where that line came from. This I'm going to use, I'm going to leave lots of extra. I'm going to cut a little bit of it out. I'll cut a little arch out like that. And then I'll take this down and I'll freshen up the line a bit with the fender skirt, because that's just a kind of a rough one. So then I'll take my bead roller and with a tipping die, and I'm going to run along that and tip that in. It's not terrible. It's coming. This needs to roll under a little bit more. This isn't bad right here. It sits down pretty flat. Needs to be brought in a little bit more right here. Then, I don't know if you noticed it or not in the camera, but right about here, right there, I'll put a mark. Right there, and that full length goes right around like that, and then this tips down, that rolls over. And I need to get that over because the metal underneath there is thin. This is a hole I had to fix. It's not a rust hole. It looks like somebody shot the car or something. I don't know what happened. It was, something must have come up on the wheel and right through the wheel well, because they had it filled right in, or they punctured a hole for some reason. Doesn't matter. It's solid metal. I'll just weld it in. But anyway, that's kind of what we're, still have to keep working on it. There, a couple of clecos in her. So if I put this on the English wheel, I can form that around a bit. All right, I'm gonna do that. See, it won't take much, it'll just take a little wrap. All right, now I have the clecos so I can put it back where I needed it. Now at the English wheel, let's see what we can do with this little. So I got about 3 steps down from a flat. So a flat, I don't know what size that is, radius, but the third one down from there, I'm not going to go too heavy on it. And I'm trying to get it so it crowns downward. So let's get her in there. This way maybe so you guys can see it. Oh, wrong way. Oh, that was the right way. Need a spring on that. All right, so I'm just going to give it a little tension. Lock it down. A little bit more than that, maybe. And it only is on that area right there. Right where it flips over the top of the arch, and then it goes down. And in this, nothing on the outside of that line, because that should be relatively flat. It's hard to get a good roll on the, there she goes, when it's that short of a metal, but we'll get her. I think we'll get something done. Anyway, pretty boring stuff. not much room to work. It's like very short. She's rolling down. See, she's starting to come around. All right, I'm going to keep doing it, and I'll fit it a couple times, see how it goes. Well, that's not terrible. I think I can live with that. She's down pretty decent all the way around. So I'll tack it on in a couple places. I'll just tack it in there, and then I'll have to try it on the car to make sure the arch is right. That'll be the next test. This is down flat. Yeah, it is. Underneath is flat. I was a little worried it was not sitting down all the way, but it is. It's good. So I'll tack it on and I'll try it on the car. It fits pretty good. I had to roll this, the new lip I created back some. And right here, you can see where I put the line. I think it needs to go back that far on this part right here. The rest is good. This here is good. This piece here is the original, and it has to be out no further than by the door. So that's kind of my guide. So we pull it in to where it is, and that's going to be good there. It's fitting pretty decent up here. I can roll this lip back some, bring it down a little bit because it's probably overstretched, but it fits in nicely. Just this place right here. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to, I'm going to have to bring this lip down some here too. Maybe not. Maybe a little. I'll just bring it down so it meets this. I don't want to stretch this too much. All right. I think that'll be good. There'll be some in and outs for sure. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot of fitting in these things. As you can see, the original quarter panel bead, so it's beyond that, so it needs to go up underneath. Oh, sorry. Right there's the original quarter panel bead, and it has to go up underneath that. All right, I put it up in the car, in the Thunderbird. I forgot to mention, actually I thought I videoed it, but I never. You'll see this metal piece was all trimmed back, and it took the corners off before I did the actual English wheeling on it. Sorry about that, guys. I thought I videoed it, but I didn't. No big deal. It's just trimming it back to make it easier to work with. It takes less strain that way. And another thing that I did here, and I shouldn't have, you can see these tack marks where I tacked this new piece onto the old fender, the old Wheelhouse. I should have just left the Clecos in it from the backside. And then I could have just undid the Clecos when it's in the car and just drop it down because it needs to come down quite a bit. And I also need to clean up that lip. And I have to allow another thickness of the metal so when I put it in place, it seats back all the way. I mean, I could leave it, weld it right where it is. I don't think anybody would ever notice it. But what happens is it doesn't work down here very well. This doesn't go in behind because it's sitting on top of another piece of metal right there. So that's the thing I have to do. And also on this side, it's opened up quite a bit. So I need to get a clamp up and bring this up tight before I adjust this new piece that I'm putting on. So there are a couple things that need to happen there, but we'll get it working. So let me go ahead and pull that back out, take the tack welds off, and then I'll Cleco it, and we'll do it right this time. So this is what I was talking about with the Clecos on the other side. So I moved the Clecos to the inside of the Wheelhouse so I can get at them when it's in the car. And then I had tacked this on. So I'm going to undo the tacks, I'll leave the Clecos, and then I can get it back up inside the car, make sure it's up tight on this lip, and then I can adjust this piece. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, let's do it that way. I think we'll get a better results. Well, I decided I'd better put the wheel fender skirt back on to check the arch, and I'm way out. I was way out back here. That's why it was up high. So I'm glad I went ahead and did it this way. I ended up pretty much going to be doing like Fitzy does on Fitzy's Fabrication. I think that's what I'll do up here. I'm not going to fiddle with the bead roller. I'm just going to go and do a Fitzy job. But anyway, for now, I have this one made. I'll have to slit it again and weld it in. But yeah, it's not bad. Inside here, it's pretty good. It was just rough right here. And it's actually tipped in. So there's some stuff that's going to happen there. Anyway, that's the way it goes when you're fitting. So it's a lot of fitting and fitting and fitting. Well, I've been monkeying around with this outer wheelhouse a bit. I had to slit it there. It's fitting really nicely in here now. I even cut the lip, so that fits nice, but that's a solid piece of the old quarter panel. Back here, back up some. Back in this area, I'm going to have to reconstruct this so it's the way it's supposed to be first before I can finish this part right here. So I'm going to hold that end of it for now, just so, because it's easier to stop it now than it is to fix it later. But now I moved on to this. So this is the lower part of that outer wheelhouse, lower front, sorry. So there is a V cut there. I'm not going to worry about that right now. There's a hole that has to go in. I'm not worrying about that right now. But what I am trying to do is just get a piece that's large enough. So I put a blank piece of steel in, put a couple Clecos in it, in decent metal. And I come over here and I took a square and I ran it down. So the square, so these quarter panels come down and they wrap around. So they start touching right about there. They start wrapping around to the bottom. And then they're spot welded on. And of course, there's that indent right there and all that jazz. So I just put a square against the outer part and then down here and ran a line down. And I know that these come down to just around the pinch weld, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to go a little bit longer. It's easier to go longer than to cut it, than to not. So let's mark that right now while I'm thinking of it. Sort of like that. Put my marker away. So yeah, so that's going to be my blank piece. And there's not much happening in that, except for the fact that there's a hole in this line, and this is what I'll build my, this is what I'll build the dog leg on. So they'll keep talking about this dog leg. So all it is an extension of that. So it comes out a bit. So there'll be a piece of steel come down with a flange on it like that. And it'll match up with, it'll come down. So with the bottom of the fender, sorry. Let's go here. So with the dog leg will come down, there's part of it there. And it'll be so thick with a flange on it. And it'll terminate where the bottom of the fender is. And that should be at the bottom. Go around here again. That'll be down here as it wraps around. So that'll be the bottom of the quarter panel, right there. So the dog leg will have to come down and go under and flatten out, sort of like that. And of course, it'll have a flange on it like that. So it'll make more sense as I start doing it, but I need to start somewhere. So first is to cut this blank out, get rid of this extra metal, and go from there. See what we can come up with. Okay, fender skirt's back on the car. Don't underestimate the power of a fender skirt. It can tell you a lot of the story. So what I did, I put just a piece of metal in, and I'm trying to get the profile of what's not here, right? So this is missing. However, the fender skirt's in really good shape and it has the profile. So what I did, I put a piece in and I just took my marker and I went along the edge and got the profile all the way down and underneath. Now that's not deep enough, I know. There's also a little shape to these. They curve a tiny bit like that, and then they curve in a tiny bit. So I got the shape pretty darn close. This is still just the dog leg, so when it comes to the actual fender, I'll have to be a little more accurate. So that's that. And oh yeah, what I was going to show you was, okay, this, you're saying, well, there's not enough metal there, and there isn't. It's only right there I can see the edge of the metal. But now I have something I can follow, so I can trace this along and make a nice 3/4 flange, sort of like this, right? And follow that, because that has to go on a piece that comes between here. So I'll just roll this a tiny bit because I have some extra metal right here. So I'll put it on the dolly or something in the vise, and I'll roll this edge, and then I'll weld a piece on, and then I'll weld this strip on that piece, and it'll give me the profile. Hope that makes sense. We'll get her done, and then I'm sure it will when it's done. And like I said, this here, I'm gonna have to rebuild this now, the actual quarter panel, to get this right, because it's not coming out perfect. I mean, half of it's missing. So once I put it all in there, I'll have more to work with, and I can get this inner fender done right. But for now, we're working on the dog leg. So this is kind of what I'm shooting for here. Now this, I think I'm gonna have to split this and move this piece, just move it in some. I'm not sure. It's looking, as long as it clears the quarter panel, I'm fine. And then when I get it off, I'll do the rest. I'll have to slit the back, and then we'll wrap this right around. But that's kind of it. That's it for the dog leg, and I got that metal in. Let's take a look around here. I rolled this over I have a little small anvil there, and I just rolled it over, tacked it on. So I didn't weld it right in yet because I'm not sure about this section right here. It may have to go in at a little bit of a dip. And then up in here will be all attached to the new metal and trimmed up and stuff. So that's it. She's coming along. Well, I got quite a bit done on this outer wheelhouse up in here. Now I was in editing video, and I think I'm at 30 minutes almost. That's quite a long video. I'm trying to keep them a lot lower, or a lot shorter rather. So I'm gonna take you down here, and I'm going to show you a couple of things that I want to talk about that I'm not happy with. This area right here needs to be replaced. This is thin up here. I want to do something with that. I don't like those pitting that deep. This has got a support underneath, I know, but I think I'm going to grind them out and weld them in. This definitely has to be replaced. That's too thin, probably right over to there. And then of course, there's this piece under here is thin. The rest is not bad there. That's pretty solid. So this area still needs some work. All of this needs to be welded back in. See, I'm getting quite a ways ahead of myself here now. And I want to start backing up. But I'm not going to, video it all, because you guys have already seen pretty much everything that's going on there. I talked about layering, and I talked about all the little components that are inside this area on this car. And that's kind of the goal of these videos, is to show people how these cars were constructed, try to put them back as close as I can to the original. And there aren't any videos out there for these cars that go into this detail. And I hope that someone can get a lot of benefit of this down the road. If not, well, I guess I had fun making videos. So what I'm going to do, because this video is getting long, like I said, it's at 30 minutes, I'm going to start working on this part of this car, the outer wheelhouse. I'm going to start working on that off camera, and because it's going to be just welding and grinding now. Up here, when we come back on the video, I'll have some of this all done. I want to get this completed and put in. And the next video, I want to start doing this quarter panel repairs, because I want to get this done right. So this all has to be perfect. And it's not perfect right now. So that's pretty much it for this video. I'm going to call this one well, you already know what I call it because you're watching the video, but I'm going to call it part 1 of the outer wheelhouse repairs. So anyway, hope everyone has a great week, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.